The city of shadows, the last bastion of humanity, pulsed under artificial light that never went out. Neon towers cut through the perpetually illuminated sky of New Heliopolis, where 30,000 survivors crowded into skyscrapers that had never known night. In the streets, industrial floodlights banished every inch of darkness, creating a labyrinth of brightness that kept the devoured at bay. Marcus Chen adjusted his protective goggles against the constant glare and observed the central reactor's control panel. The red numbers blinked like irregular heartbeats, 72% capacity. The previous week, it had been 78%. The decline was accelerating, and everyone knew what that meant. 3 years earlier, when the first shadows began moving independently of their objects, humanity learned a brutal lesson. Darkness had become predatory. The creatures were born where light could not reach, undefined forms that fed on human substance, leaving only empty shells that crumbled like ash at the touch. The expedition departed at artificial dawn. 12 volunteers, dressed in reflective suits, carrying plasma lanterns and luminosity detectors. Their destinations were the dead zones, the abandoned neighborhoods where energy no longer reached, territory surrendered to the hunger of shadows. Alina Vasquez led the group, her footsteps echoing on the asphalt as they approached the first light barrier. Beyond it, the city transformed into a cemetery of concrete and metal, where buildings rose like broken teeth against a sky that seemed to suck the very color from the world. The first devoured appeared when they crossed Last Light Avenue, a stain that moved against the laws of physics, sliding along walls like living oil. Alina felt the familiar cold rise up her spine, not the cold of air, but something deeper, as if life itself were being sucked from her bones. The creature tested the limits of their lantern's light beams, circling the group with movements that defied perception. It had no defined form, only an absence that moved, a negation of reality that made eyes water when trying to focus on it. They advanced in tight formation, each step taking them deeper into shadow territory. The surrounding buildings seemed to lean over them, as if the very architecture were drawn to darkness. In the broken windows, other presences stirred, fragments of movement that suggested a hungry crowd waiting in the gloom. The abandoned Helios Corporation laboratory rose in the center of the dead zone, like a monolith of glass and steel. According to records, its fusion generators still functioned, powered by energy cells that could sustain New Heliopolis for decades. But between them and salvation, the shadows thickened. Alina felt when the first lantern began to fail. The light flickered, and immediately the darkness approached like a living tide. The lantern bearer, a young engineer named David, didn't even have time to scream. The shadows enveloped him like black water, and when they dispersed, only his empty clothes remained on the ground. The group compressed even tighter, their lights overlapping in desperate circles of protection. Each step toward the laboratory cost precious energy. Each second drained their light reserves. When they finally reached the building, only 6 expedition members remained. Alina forced entry, her hands trembling as she activated the emergency systems. The laboratory lights flickered, hesitated, and then ignited with a golden glow that made the shadows recoil like wounded animals. In the basements, they found what they sought: crystallized energy cells, each one glowing with the intensity of a captured star. Enough energy to keep New Heliopolis illuminated for generations. But as they carried their luminous treasure back through the dead zones, Elena couldn't shake a terrible certainty. The shadows were learning. They moved differently now, more coordinated, more intelligent. And in the depths of darkness, something much larger than the common devoured was beginning to awaken, drawn to the light that humanity desperately protected. The war between light and darkness was only beginning.